So when we're doing a basement renovation, we want to add a lot of heat to the floor. And the secret here is this. When you have your rough-in basement done by a builder, they're going to drop in, there's a code requirement, so many square feet for every heat run, and they'll throw them into the ceiling, and they'll blow hot air into the ceiling, and it'll make it about halfway down, and then it'll start rising back up again. So what happens is when you're sitting there watching TV, your heart is beneath that level of heat. So it's actually in about 10 degrees, which is what the temperature around a basement is in our area. If you're only sitting in 10 degrees, you're gonna get hypothermic. That's why you need a blanket. So what we do is we wanna tap into the side of our heat runs. We wanna bring a couple of extra lines down right near the floor, and we wanna reduce the size of the ducting from a 5 to a 4 inch, and that increases pressure, blows the hot air across the floor, and now we're heating the room from the ground up, and not just from the ceiling. So you're gonna need to add a couple of runs to the room. You are heating a space that was never heated before to that degree. So you're not gonna disrupt the balance in the home. You're just gonna take the heat level from around the ceiling, and we're gonna be bringing that heat level down closer to the floor. So the way we do this, and we're lucky because in residential ducting, the metal's pretty thin. All you do is you take your knife, let me get up here and show you, and you cut a hole. The reason I'm showing you this technique is because a lot of people don't have the proper cutting tools for bringing in ductwork, and I get that. So this works really great. It's a nice little cheat. So what we have here is a 5-inch side takeoff, and it has an adhesive gasket on it. It basically sticks right to the ductwork. So we just want to make sure that we're cutting our hole big enough that we're opening up the back end space that's on here. And we're just gonna eyeball that line to right there. And we'll keep cutting. Once you have your hole, all you have to do is remove the plastic gasket that exposes the adhesive. All right, now once you have that pressed onto the ductwork over the hole, you get a couple of these little number 8 screws, and you just wanna screw that together just for good measure. You don't want to trust an adhesive long term, but it's handy for working on your own to have that on there because you don't need a second pair of hands holding that in place. There we go. We just open the damper, and now we're good to go. All right, so here we are. We're going to just finish off one of our heat runs, demonstrate the whole system. The idea being, we wanted this to be blowing across the floor. You can set the height wherever you like it. I've got this set so that after my flooring and my baseboard are in, I still have a few inches there of space. I don't want my heat run sitting right on the baseboard, just in case that the measurement's a little bit off. I like to have a little bit of mercy there. So I have a 4x10 boot, the 4-inch collar. I've taken this piece of pipe and linked it together. I'm just gonna stick it in here. This is probably about the easiest production that you're gonna get. So sooner or later while you're doing your ductwork, you're gonna run into this issue. The ductwork, when it comes pre-cut, has one smooth edge and one corrugated edge, we'll call it. And sooner or later, you're gonna have to put it on something like this. And we're gonna use this to go from 5 to 4 inch to build pressure up. But you can see it doesn't fit. Now, this is gonna be one of these situations where you're gonna wanna go to the store, you're gonna wanna have the right tool for the job. Don't be one of those guys that comes over with a pair of snips and cuts all of this into fins and then kind of bends them together. That's just ridiculous, and it's a good way to get hurt. This tool here, it's a crimper. And all you do, it's slow and monotonous, is you go around the outside of the pipe, crimping the pipe, and basically you're taking whatever that diameter is and you're forcing it in and out in the crimps to create a new diameter of pipe, so that it fits inside the next fitting. There's no real skill involved in this, just patience. There we go. Now we take this. Perfect. So now that we have our extension up into the ceiling area, all we have left now is put some 5-inch pipe from this reducer over to my side takeoff. In order to do that, I need a piece of pipe here and I need an angle So a 90-degree angle, and then another length of pipe. So there are two ways to cut the pipe that comes from the factory. We can use a regular pair of snips, and we can cut around. And so we're gonna do that to demonstrate here. I just need like a 6-inch piece. What I like to do here is let's like use a black marker. Mark both sides that I'm cutting. And I reach to the back and I mark the middle and the back of the duct. That way, when I'm cutting here, and remember, this doesn't have to be perfect. We're gonna snap it together. We're gonna end up dimpling both ends on this one, just so that's out of the way. There we go. Now, this stuff is sharp. You could wear gloves if you're not comfortable working with sharp metal. Here we go. So now we just fold this together. It's like tongue and groove. Force that in, make like a heart shape, and then snap it together to make a round. Now it's locked in, and we're gonna dimple our other end. Max, we should be playing some really good music right about now. Maybe you can add it in later. Maybe elevator music. You know, the kind in like one of those thriller movies where the guy's in the elevator and he's on the way to go kill somebody and all you hear is do, 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 do. All right, here we go. We'll get that piece in, ba-boom. Now, we have a 5-inch elbow. And the way you make 90 degrees is you have a wide end and a short end on every one of these sections. You just connect all the dots. So all the short pieces go together. It's like a little puzzle. Be really careful, don't reach in and turn it around. There's a little metal joint on every one of these rings, and as your finger goes by, it'll just rip it right open. So if you're gonna grab, just pinch the ends or hold the outside. Again, wear gloves if you're not used to doing this and you're not comfortable. Bam, 90 degrees. Now we can put that up here over top of the dimple, facing in the right direction. We can throw in a couple of screws now just to make sure this assembly doesn't come apart. Now I'm using a really good little self-tapping screw for ductwork, which is kind of handy because it digs in really good. For the next piece of pipe, we want to measure from here, where the collar is, to here, where the collar is. And because it's already corrugated on both sides, we don't have to use those fancy scissors again. So we stick out our measuring tape from where we want to go to where we want to go. And I'm getting a reading of about 15 inches. Just for fun, we're going to create this pipe first. And let's go all the way down. I'm going to show you another tool you can add to your arsenal. And this looks like another pair of snips, but it's not. It's really cool. It has 2 blades in the middle, and it actually is used for cutting into ductwork that's pre-existing. So there's more than one application. I'm just going to get down on the ground and I'll show you how this works. First we stab it, and then you start snipping. Now, this is not designed to be really quick. You only get about 1 inch for every snip. But you can see, we're actually cutting a strip about 1/4 inch wide right out of the duct. Now this is actually kind of handy because there is no point that your hands get anywhere near the sharp metal. So let's say you wanted to put a trap door or add something into existing ductwork. This is a great way to get in. You can also use this when you're doing your side takeoff. What we're going to do is we're going to get it on one side first, and you just bend the metal around to help it shape around the fins. There we go. And our 5-inch is just not small enough. When you cut into the metal, there's just all these shards and everything else. So instead of trying to clean up to cut metal. We're just gonna re-crimp with these bad boys because they make the hole smaller than it does from the factory crimp. All right, done. Get a couple screws in here so it doesn't cause you any grief down the road. Generally speaking, I like 2 is plenty. There we go. If you're enjoying these videos, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, but most importantly, comment on the videos. By all means, or a suggestion of video you'd like to see, let us know. We'd love to be in touch.